My favorite quote that was told to me about my son is, he's ornery, smart, defiant. He could harness the power to cause a riot, but yet be the politest kid in the room. He did make everybody smile, and he did have a kind heart, but he loved to play jokes. He loved to be ornery, and he loved to be outside and skateboard and anything go, go, go. That's what he did. He was fun. He was exciting, daring, willing to do anything, try anything once. And that was the end of it also. So probably about a year before, got in a group with friends and, they thought they were older than they were and wanted to try marijuana is where it started, and he would get in trouble and be grounded and do really good for a while. And we'd give him the reins again to go out there and try and make good decisions. And he'd get caught smoking weed again. And so we'd have to rein him back in and be grounded. And you give him an inch, he would have taken a mile. And I didn't give him the inch, and he still took a mile. So all we can do is teach them between right and wrong and hope for the best. He just thought it was no big deal. Like, what's a little bit of weed, Mom? It's not going to hurt me. Well, what he didn't understand is when you try something, you're like, oh, well, that wasn't that bad. I can try something else and it won't be bad. I think any of the drugs would affect their development. They're not ready to make decisions. Their frontal lobe is not developed. And they think they're invincible. They think nothing can happen to them. Even parents think that. I thought that. It's not going to happen to me. I grounded him. Took away his phone. Took away his friends. Made him do chores around the house. I remember one time he was grounded and we were cleaning baseboards, and he loved skateboarding. Like, skateboarding was his number one passion. And I made him get on his skateboard and roll through the living room cleaning the baseboards on his skateboard. And I got clean baseboards. But right before it happened, he had just gotten ungrounded. He was doing good. He decided that he lived with me instead of his dad, but it was Christmas break, and he went to his dad's to spend, a couple nights there since they were on break. And they had a friends come over and spend the night, and they decided to experiment with more than just marijuana, and that's what happened. But now with fentanyl, there's no second chances. Like, he was only 15. I mean, he was just looking to see what it was like. I mean, I went through his phone, and on the text messages, just hours before, he's making plans to go to the gym with his friends. He's making plans to do stuff like. And now that fentanyl is here, there's no second chances anymore. You don't get a second chance. He was a freshman in high school. Now his brother's a freshman in high school. And when he goes back in January, he will have done more school than his older brother. And in May, he will be older than his brother. His older brother. So the day that it happened, he had, so I have we all have iPhones, so I could see where he was at any time. He was supposed to be at the skate park, so I called him and I said, "Where are you? You're not supposed to be at your friend's house," which I knew it was his friend's house because it was right around the corner. I've seen him there before. Said, "You're not supposed to be there." And he was like, "Well, we got hot, so we're just coming to get something to drink. But can I stay another night at Dad's?" And I said, "Well, I guess so. You know, it's the end of Christmas break, so what's one more day? But you have to come home tomorrow." I said, "Okay, I love you." We got off the phone. Or before we got off the phone, he told me his dad's going to pick him up at 9 o'clock from the skate park. And I said, "Okay." And I checked his location again about 9:30, 9:45, and he's back at Dad's house. So I was like, okay, well, he's home. He's safe. And little did I know that 12 hours later, I would be at home by myself without a car and just my 7-month-old baby. So I get a call and it's his dad. Well, I don't think anything of it. Just, oh, well, he's calling. Hunter's there. And he says that Hunter was blue. And I said, "Well, you need to call 911. And he said, "They're already here." And I said, "Okay, well, I'll be there in just a minute." So I call my husband and tell him that he needs to get home. He's actually at Hunter's friend's house fixing a hot tub. Well, since he was working on the hot tub, he puts me on speakerphone. And I say, "You need to get home. Hunter's blue. I need to go to him." Well, then he's on speakerphone, so everybody at the house hears him. So the kids they know firsthand. And they're already telling people on the internet before I can even get to the hospital. But so I go to Wes's house. There's several fire trucks, an ambulance that's driving away, and several police officers. So I go in. Wes is panicking, talking to the police officers. Hunter's friend is there, who is also being talked to by police officers, but he is throwing up. And so nobody even noticed that I was there. And so I said, "Do I even need to be here?" Because Hunter was already in the ambulance driving away when I pulled up. They said, "No, since you're the mother, you can go ahead and go." And so we rushed to the hospital, and I watched probably 15 people work on my son for 2 hours. And they told me that there was nothing else that they could do and that I should call the family to come to the hospital. The whole time that I was on my way to Wes's and on my way to the hospital, I did not cry. I just kept saying, "He's going to be okay. He's going to be okay." It wasn't until they told me that there was nothing else that they could do is when I started crying and just told him that I can't make the decision. He's going to have to do what's best. And that was to wait on the family to call the time of death at 2:12 on December 30th of 2021 for my 15-year-old. It took me about a year to even, talk about it. And I'm not going to say the days get easier, but talking about it definitely helps. We have a family group. It's called Family Supporting Families. And we go to different high schools and different middle schools, and we teach the kids about illicit drugs and fentanyl. And that is super healing. When the kids come up to you and they want to tell you their story, or they just want to give you a hug, or this last year, there was actually several different schools that I went to that actually knew Hunter. And one of the kids told me that, which I didn't recognize them, they just knew me because of Hunter. And he had told me that at the skate park, some kids were bullying him, and Hunter stood up for him and, befriended him and told me he was a good kid, that he was actually standing up for him rather than being a part of the bullying. So that was nice to hear, somebody else's perspective of your son when you're not around. When it happened, I didn't expect to know anybody in the room or for them to know Hunter. And so when he came up to me and said all that, I just cried. I didn't get his name. So I have no idea who it is. I just know that it was somebody that Hunter stuck up for, and that will stick with him for the rest of his life. I had to call somebody from the DEA. And since nobody was working on it in Tulsa, he was able to pick up the case. But I had called several times to check, and they were like, well, this person's going to do it, and then that person ended up not doing it. The original detective that was on my case was switched from homicide to burglary shortly after Hunter. So then his case was just up in the air. And then they just kept saying, well, we don't have anybody. We're going to switch it to this person. We're going to switch it to that person, when they probably weren't doing anything. But now I have a wonderful agent that cares and wants to help. If I hadn't have found the Family Supporting Families group, nothing would have happened. They are the group that helped me get in touch with the DEA and share information and heal. This is Hunter. This is his urn. This is what I keep most of it in. So we had a song play at his funeral. It was called A Visitor from Heaven. And so that's what we put on there. A friend to all and a visitor from heaven. This is the box that I take everywhere, whether it's vacation or just to things like this, where I get to talk about them, or to the schools. So this only has a little bit, because when we go on vacation, I take a little piece and I give it, to the water wherever we are. And I take a little bit of their sand and I put them in little tiny jars, and I mix the sand with his ashes. So I brought back a piece of where I left him. And he still gets to go on all the different places. I know that I have to tell his story because I don't want anybody to feel like this. And it's gonna keep happening if I stay quiet. Or if we all stay quiet, it will keep happening. And I know going and telling my story and Hunter's story, I know that it saved at least one person. At least one. And so I will keep telling the story.